This is one of the best opportunity for us to learn and understand how the potential hate crime can be reduced and what are the immediate measurements and precautions can be taken.
I make you 100% guarantees, but what I can ask you to do is think of these layers. And so when you think about your home, having things like security systems, having things like camera systems are very important, because that's another layer. Because when the criminal comes in, they are looking for the weakest vulnerability. What is the easiest thing? Does anybody work in risk management by chance? Most, okay. So what risk management is about, what is identifying the risk and mitigating for that risk, correct? Generically. So you have to think of crime in the same way, and preventing crime and being safe. You have to look at what are the risks, and the criminal also does a risk analysis. They are looking at what is the least amount of risk that I can take on to commit this crime, not only not get caught, but get what I want out of it. So if you think about a burglar, and they want to steal something out of your car, they are identifying, where is this car? Is it in a parking lot that's busy? Is it on a back street where there's nobody looking at it? Then they look at, is this car unlocked or is it locked? Do I have to force my way in, or is it easy to get in? So things like these assessments, the criminal is doing it just like we are. The police department, we work in layers. I've worked in CID, criminal investigations. That's a layer of the police department to try to address the crime problem. And so we have patrol officers out in the cars, and probably most of you have seen at least one patrol car, either in your neighborhood or on the public streets. We have the officers on motorcycles. Those are our traffic officers. They're trying to keep the traffic safe and keep the roadways secure. But something new that you might start seeing more of is we're starting to put police officers on bicycles, because we really believe in a connection with the community. And what we have looked at and identified is sometimes when you have the police officer driving around the car and the windows are up, you kind of lose a little bit of connection and communication there. And so the officers on the bicycles can come into the community and be present and be approachable and talk to people about what is happening. So that's another layer of security that the police department is going to be doing to try to help you and be present and let you know that you are in a safe place. In terms of the national picture, I also looked at, before I came here, I wanted to look at the hate crime statistics that are reported nationally. The FBI tracks UCR data, which is essentially all the statistics for major crime groups. They also track crimes that get classified as a hate crime, which is what's happening in Kansas. It's being classified as a hate crime because the crime is motivated, it's believed to be motivated either based on the race, the religion, or the ethnicity of the victim. And so when you look at the national picture, the hate crime numbers for the Asian community, for the Middle Eastern community, compared to the national picture, are very low. Matter of fact, the number one category, unfortunately, still nationally is African Americans. We are also seeing a rise nationally in hate crimes against gender bias and against sexual orientation bias. But the religion and the ethnicity that may impact the Indian community, the Middle Eastern community, Pakistani community, all of these communities, it is nationally very low. Now, you can sometimes take comfort in low statistics, but at the same time, that doesn't mean you let your guard down. It doesn't mean that, okay, nationally, maybe not such a big problem. Frisco is a nice, affluent place. My community is beautiful. That doesn't mean let everything go and let the world go by and don't think about your safety. I kind of think about safety. I talked about the onion and the orange and the layers, but I also look at really 4 critical components of where safety and security matters. And number one is, I do think about traffic. I do think about operating a motor vehicle on public roadways and the safety and security about that. And this discussion is really not about traffic enforcement or slowing down or distracted drivers, but that's one of 4 categories. When you're thinking of safety and security, you do need to think about how driving impacts safety and security. The other component is property. Frisco enjoys a very low violent crime UCR statistic. Violent crime has happened. However, the rates of it happening is very low when you consider our population size. So, but where we do tend to see spikes is with property crimes, and primarily with that, the burglaries of motor vehicles. So, some very simple things about cars and burglaries is you have to make it more difficult for the burglar because they are looking for the easiest, lowest risk ability. And when we look at our stats and we look at our police reports and we examine why are these burglaries happening, our core response out of that is more times than not, the car is actually unlocked. So we ask and we recommend to increase your safety, your security is lock your locks. Lock the door locks on your car, lock the locks on your house. And you really have to think about balancing convenience. Just running into a store real quick or just running into the post office. I've caught myself doing it. I have a P.O. box over there on Stonebrook and I'll get off work before I go home and go in and check our P.O. box and I look around, there's no other cars in the parking lot. I should be okay. And I've done that. And I think everybody has maybe done something similar because it's convenient and we think about the convenience. But I recommend that you balance convenience with safety and having a safety practice. But that hate also comes from fear. When people fear, they often turn to anger and hate. And then some people, out of that anger and hate, they do turn to violence. But one of the things that we do, that we're involved in, is we do have a task force member with the FBI. He works typically they're out there to look at terrorism. It's called the Joint Terrorism Task Force. Now, that's not just terrorism in the international sense, because we look at terrorism in 2 contexts, domestic and international. And so the domestic piece is looking at some of the other extremist views that happen. Right-wing extremism, neo-Nazi movements, white supremacy movements. So we have people embedded to try to evaluate and look at those threats. And we receive information through our federal partners about potential threats. When those threats happen, depending on the threat, we then apply resources, whether it's on a community level, putting more officers into a space on a visibility level, whether it's an enforcement level because we have somebody that is a concern, and so we work up the case and we quickly move to get them arrested, to get them off the street. So we do things like that. We've seen threats come in a variety of different ways. From time to time, somebody will call into 911 and make a bomb threat, or they will make a threat against a school. And so then we go and investigate that and find that person, whether it's through running search warrants on accounts and data and looking to see who they are and move quickly to get them arrested. When the threats are directed and targeted on a ethnic, religious, racial platform, we are moving more quickly to identify the source of that threat and take action. Does that answer your question?
No, absolutely. I think it's for all because we were getting texts on it. So I think you really addressed the critical issue,
Yeah.
Because I think it's very important to know proactively what we are doing as a city. And I think you guys are embedding everything inside and then kind of having detectives go out. That's actually a great thing. Appreciate it,
Yeah.
Thank you.
And one thing about our detectives, I've spent half my career in criminal investigations. I have 21 years as a police officer, and 11 of those years I've been either a detective or a supervisor over the detectives. And I can tell you that Frisco, we have a very strong core of investigators. But outside of that, we also have a very strong relationship with our other law enforcement partners. We've worked with just about any federal agency that exists. And you know, sometimes people hear things about immigration enforcement, they hear things about FBI, they hear things about maybe Secret Service and stuff like that. We tap into those agencies and we work with those agencies. And so we know people in those agencies. And the important thing I want to say about that is what oftentimes the public sees on television as a perception of those agencies or rhetoric about those agencies is very far from the truth. I've worked with FBI, Secret Service, DEA. I've worked with military criminal investigators from the Navy and the Air Force. I mean, I'm not trying to give you a resume list, but I want to let you know I've worked with these different groups, and these groups are very consistent. Even though they have different letters, they have different investigative mandates, they all still have the same constitutional bounds that I do as a local police officer. And so they are accountable to the Constitution like we are, and they are all well responsible with that duty. So I hope you can have trust at the federal level as well as the local level and the state level. So any other questions?
I think
Objective to dealing with difficult people on a regular basis, it can be quite shocking if somebody is verbally aggressive to you or disrespectful or using profanities that are not appropriate in public. And so you do have to make decisions and judgment calls. Do I need to increase the distance from this person? Do I need to create a gap and create a better safe zone because this person is starting to get mad, they're starting to get aggressive? And one of the things that I do advocate is creating a safety barrier. Because when these things are starting to happen, the more that you remain present, and if you engage, the risk of physical conflict rises. Sometimes when you create that gap in that space, or you enlist the help of somebody that is with you, whether it be a friend, whether it be the restaurant manager, whether it be somebody an employee at the movie theaters, you know, please don't forget about the company or the business that you're visiting to be a resource to try to help you. Because, you know, going back to that issue of what a criminal will do, they take advantage, they assess vulnerability, and they think that they can win an attack. And so when more people are present to try to diffuse the initial conflict, it can reduce the safety issue of an actual physical attack. You do have to make decisions on, you know, is it time to defend myself? Is it time to speak on my behalf and speak back to this person? Or is it time to leave, to create a gap, or maybe move to a different table in the restaurant and, you know, and move on? So in the immediacy of something like that is evolving, your distance to people is very important. You know, this is something that we teach police officers, because police officers engage with difficult people daily. I mean, you know, Frisco is a very safe place. We've said that. It's statistically supported. But on any given day, when I turn on my lights and I stop a car because they ran a red light, I don't know whether that person will be angry with me because I wear this uniform. So it's not about necessarily my ethnicity or my religion. It's because I have this patch on my sleeve and because I have red and blue lights. And so they become angry with me. So now I have to diffuse. And so one of the things that we're teaching police officers is not only the physical barriers, not only the protection. You know, we wear all this heavy stuff, they're tools, but quite frankly, these tools don't solve the problem. You know, being able to think and talk and work through a scenario without losing control is very important. So the space issue, if you feel comfortable with speaking and diffusing, if you have experience with diffusing conflict, then perhaps you can talk your way down from that. But every scenario is, quite frankly, very different. And so you have to make a judgment call on how safe you're feeling. How does this person make you feel? Are they presenting are they posturing aggressively? Because some people use words to attack, and then you start to see nonverbal communication going on. And what they also teach us with interviewing and talking to people is that communication is predominantly nonverbal. If you have somebody that is unhappy with you and you are starting to see expressions on the face, or you're starting to see girding of the teeth, you are starting to see physical manipulation of their own hands, balling a fist, these are pre-attack indicators that this person is serious and that this person will commit to physical violence if it continues to escalate.
So should they call 911 in that situation?
Absolutely. And you know, sometimes being a police officer, I think of these things as being very common, but yes, somebody should always be prepared to call 911. Every member in your family, if they have an electronic device, they should have our emergency 911 number in there. They should have the non-emergency number in there, because sometimes you may see something that you don't like happening with someone else, and you're not involved. If you don't make that phone call, there is a risk that that escalates and becomes something more violent or concerning or scary. And so it is okay for any citizen to call us. Because, go ahead.
On that note, let's say nothing happened. I mean, as you just mentioned, it's just some expressions that we thought were threatening, and we called 911. Is that enough information for police department to act upon? Like, you know, say we felt that something might have happened.
So the diagnosis at the police department level, let's say you feel that somebody was inappropriate with you, they talked to you in a bad manner, they used profanities, maybe they even verbally threatened, but didn't physically do anything. So when you call the police, what's going to happen? Well, first of all, our communications department is going to receive your call. Our communications department is not making a decision on whether your report is valuable or not. Anything you say is